Lynn was a creature of habit. Every evening after work, she'd leash up her 4 golden retrievers, Pai, Nan, Mei, and Ju, and stroll through the streets of Chengdu, China. The dogs loved their walks, and Lynn found them to be a perfect way to unwind. This particular evening was no different, or so she thought. The air was thick with the aroma of malatang, a local spicy street food that permeated the area. It was one of those nights where the streets came alive with people and food vendors. It was a holiday, and Lynn figured the dogs deserved a little treat for being so well-behaved lately. But as they neared a quieter side street, something unusual happened. The dogs, who were usually playful and full of energy, stopped abruptly and pulled Lynn toward a shop window. She assumed they had been drawn in by the delicious smell of food, but they weren't pulling toward a vendor. Instead, they sat down in front of a dusty shop window, their usually wagging tails frozen in place. Their attention was completely captivated by whatever was inside the shop. Curious, Lynn followed their gaze, frowning as she tried to see what could possibly be so fascinating. The shop window was cluttered with an assortment of trinkets and souvenirs, miniature dragons, silk fans, and faded photographs. There was nothing particularly interesting, at least not to her. But the dogs, especially Pai, stood still, staring intently. Pai, who was typically the first to greet strangers with excitement, was motionless, his head tilted as if trying to figure out what he was looking at. Lynn leaned in closer, her breath fogging up the glass. She could see a basket inside the shop, filled with soft blankets, and nestled among them, 3 tiny kittens. The kittens were barely more than a few weeks old, their fur soft and fluffy. One was a sleek black, another a mix of white and black, and the last one, a playful ginger, stretched lazily, revealing a fluffy white belly. The sight warmed Lynn's heart instantly. No wonder her dogs were transfixed. Even though they were golden retrievers, known for their friendly and playful nature, this level of fascination with another animal was unexpected. Lynn smiled. The sight of her normally rambunctious dogs mesmerized by the tiny creatures reminded her of something she'd read about how animals, much like humans, could be drawn to the cuteness of babies, puppies, kittens, and even human infants. It triggered a nurturing instinct, and it seemed her golden retrievers were no exception. Ma, the gentlest of her dogs, whined softly, her tail wagging slowly. Pai, who had been strutting back and forth earlier, let out a playful bark, trying to engage the kittens through the glass. Even Nan, the most hyperactive of the group, stood still, his nose pressed against the window as if trying to catch a whiff of the kitten's scent. For a moment, the busy streets of Chengdu faded into the background, and it was just Lynn, her dogs, and the kittens in the shop window. The scene was so heartwarming that a small crowd began to form around them, onlookers stopping to watch the interaction between the dogs and the kittens. Lynn pulled out her phone and snapped a few pictures. She ran a popular dedicated to her dogs, and she knew her followers would love this adorable moment. She couldn't wait to share this with her online community, where the dogs had amassed a loyal following thanks to their daily antics and heartwarming adventures. As she was about to put her phone away, the door to the shop creaked open and an older woman stepped outside. She had kind eyes and a warm smile, and she glanced from the dogs to the kittens with amusement. "Your dogs seem to have taken quite a liking to my little ones," the woman said, her voice raspy with age. Lynn chuckled. "It looks like they have," she replied. "Are they for sale?" The woman shook her head. "No, these kittens are rescues. I found them abandoned and brought them here. I was planning to take them to the local shelter, but they've been so comfortable here, I've kept them a little longer." Lynn's heart melted at the story. She crouched down next to her dogs, who were still glued to the kittens in the window. "You seem to be a kind soul rescuing them," Lynn said, her voice soft. The woman smiled. "Animals have always had a special place in my heart. I guess I can't help but take in the ones that need help." As they chatted, Lynn learned that the shop was more than just a store for souvenirs. The back room had become a makeshift rescue shelter for strays the woman had found over the years. Her store, Treasures from Afar, was a little haven for animals who needed a second chance. The conversation flowed easily, and Lynn found herself feeling a deep sense of connection with this woman. They talked about the importance of adopting pets, the joy that animals could bring to people's lives, and how fulfilling it was to care for creatures who relied so much on human kindness. The crowd that had gathered around the dogs and kittens began to disperse, but Lynn's heart felt full. She had always loved her dogs dearly, but meeting the kittens had stirred something in her. Her pack of golden retrievers seemed equally enchanted, and the thought of these animals finding loving homes filled her with a sense of purpose. After some time, Lynn said goodbye to the woman and promised to visit again. As she walked away from the shop, her dogs kept glancing back, their tails wagging in a slow, rhythmic motion. Lynn couldn't help but smile. This walk had taken an unexpected but delightful turn. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Some people even asked if they could adopt the kittens themselves. It was the kind of content that resonated with people, a heartwarming moment of connection between animals and a reminder of the power of kindness. Lynn's exploded overnight, and she used the platform to promote the woman's shop and the rescue work she was doing. She encouraged her followers to consider adopting animals from shelters and even set up a donation page to help support local rescues. The impact was immediate. People from all over the city visited the shop to meet the kittens and offer donations. As the weeks passed, Lynn found herself returning to Treasures from Afar regularly. She started volunteering her time to help care for the animals, finding a deep sense of fulfillment in the work. Her dogs, of course, loved every visit. They had become unofficial mascots for the shop, and customers loved seeing them interact with the rescue animals. The experience changed Lynn in ways she hadn't expected. For so long, she had felt pressure from her family, especially her mother, to settle down, find a husband, and live a more traditional life. Her mom never quite understood why she chose to live alone with 4 dogs instead of pursuing what she considered a normal life. But this experience reminded Lynn of something important. Her happiness didn't have to fit into anyone else's mold. She realized that her true fulfillment came from the love and joy her dogs brought her and from the connection she felt with the animals she helped at the shop. It was a simple life, but it was hers, and she had no intention of changing it to meet anyone else's expectations. As the moment continued to garner attention, Lynn's life grew richer in ways she hadn't anticipated. Fan mail began pouring in from people who had been touched by her story. Handmade dog treats, toys for the kittens, and heartfelt letters of thanks arrived at her door regularly. It wasn't just about fame anymore. It was about the community she had built around the love of animals and the good they could do in the world. Lynn's golden retrievers, Pi, Nan, May, and Ju, became more than just her companions. They were a bridge to something bigger, a connection to the community and a symbol of the love and joy that animals can bring into our lives. In the end, Lynn found herself no longer weighed down by the expectations of others. She had carved out a life that made her happy, surrounded by the creatures she loved, and dedicated to making a difference in the lives of animals in need. And as she curled up on the couch that night, her dogs nestled around her, she felt an overwhelming sense of peace. This was her life, and it was perfect just the way it was.